pretty awesome. Hold on, I'm just going to switch over to the other camera. There we are. My name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. Thanks everybody for coming by. That's actually really awesome. Hold on a quick minute. Yes, it worked. I set up something new today. So I've got a couple new triggers working, and I'm hoping that it works really well today. But today we're actually talking about something that I find is really important, something that's really impactful for me. Each of these topics we touch on something related to the recovery space, something that's related to addiction, something that's related to living an outstanding life. But we have talked about everything from stressors, so things that would cause stress. We've talked about things that bring us to those low points, like the hitting the rock bottom. We've talked about triggers, things that would push us over the edge. We've talked about being vulnerable. We've stretched things even further to discussing gratitude. We've even dug deeper into relationships. I can't believe we've talked about so many different things, but we haven't actually dug into, well, I've kind of alluded to like what steps are, like what for me, I think in the last week's episode, I spoke about doing my step one. And I talked a little bit about the exercise I had to go into and what I had to document, but I didn't really dig deeper beyond what the first step was like or what the other steps were like. And so I thought today would be a great way to go and share what the rest of the steps are, and almost like a Coles Notes version. But I did make a quick video about the legitimate actual 12 steps of the recovery program for Alcoholics Anonymous. And so we're going to jump into the video real quick. But before I did, I wanted to, hold on. We have, this is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason, and here we talk about everything related to overcoming alcohol and addiction in the recovery mindset. And hold on. So if you want to get a reminder of what we're talking about, feel free to type show in the comments, and then we'll have a message sent out to you for the next time that we go live. All right, so I want to show you guys the video, and I want to get this queued up. Okay, let's take this. So we are talking about an outstanding life. My name is Jason, and I want to go, and I just noticed something, and I want to get this fixed. There. It was a tiny little, like, I don't know if you saw, there was like a line over at the top. It was driving me nuts. Okay, so we're talking about an outstanding life, and we're actually going to dive into the 12 steps. All right, here we go. Number 1, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. That's a big one. Number 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That was actually pretty intense for me. Okay, number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. So number 6 was being ready. Number 7 was the asking. Okay, number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed. This was nuts, like that, just making a list, and became willing to make amends with them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Okay, number 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. Out there, number 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscientious contact with God as we understood him. It's important because they've got that as we understood him right below the mention of anything related to like a higher power or through him. And I like how it's almost, it's not setting that expectation, but it's created that as we understood him. So if there was ever a doubt or hesitation, then that gives leeway into that understanding. It creates that crack of an idea, that sliver of a hope, where if there was no conscientious contact, then whatever contact that one would have, as we understood him, allows us to bridge that and to wedge that through. Praying only of his knowledge of his will for us and the power then to carry that out. Okay, number 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in our affairs. And that's the end. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate each of you. So this video was straight out of the big book. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we refer to it as the big book or the blue book. There's these 12 steps we review every meeting. So in every AA meeting we go to that I attend, there's an opening where we go over the preamble, but we also have the 12 steps kind of incorporated into it. One thing I appreciate is it doesn't matter which kind of a meeting I go to, because there's like an open meeting, there's a closed meeting, there's specific dedicated meetings. I've been to like specific like native only meetings. I've been to only male meetings, and then sometimes there's almost like a what do you call it, like an old timers meeting where everybody in the meeting is like super old in their recovery. And when there's different reasons I'll go to different meetings, but one thing I appreciate is it's the same message that connects each of them. Hold on, I'm just going to switch to the other camera here. Okay, so one thing I appreciate is that there might be different spins on the same approach, but it's the same message that connects each of us. You know, there's different reasons why each of us have been brought to the room, but it's the same reason that makes us stay, and it's creating that sense of community. And in a previous video we had a big discussion on community and the importance of having that supportive environment around us, because that allows us to associate ourselves with others who are like-minded, with others that are of the same, I don't want to say belief, but are on the same journey. And if we surround ourselves with the right kind of crowd, we can help almost learn from that. We can almost learn from others. One thing I found that stuck with me was that connection that I can build. I liked having that connection with others. No, that's not the right way of saying it. I want to say I like the social connection. I like connecting with others. I like the excitement, the fun approach to it. And up until a certain point, I had believed that there was no fun in in a life without alcohol and substance abuse. Like, I never thought that there was ever going to be something after I made the decision to be sober. And the fear that was driving that was holding me captive, was making all those decisions. And it was the idea of being social is what held me. And the sense of community that I wanted to get from others while in the heat of my addiction was never being fulfilled. I always had that spiritual void. And the only thing that can fill a spiritual void is this act of, the spiritual awakening that we kind of saw right at the end, the step 12. As a result of these steps, the spiritual awakening that comes from it. And no matter what I had tried to fill that gap with, it never really helped. It never really, no matter who I tried to get, I would go to these social events in hopes of finding something. And in the heat of my addiction, I never really found that. I never really created that sense of community. And I didn't have that spiritual fulfillment in this spiritual gap that I had. And I struggled for quite a long time. And no matter what I did, no matter who I tried to surround myself with, it never really created that sense of community, that sense of belonging. And, I struggled. And in all transparency, there's quite a few things that I've done wrong. And there's quite a few people that I've harmed along the way. There's family and friends that I took advantage of. And it was not my highest, it was not the greatest aspect of who I consider myself to being. There were some pretty low times I had. We talked about hitting rock bottom on a previous episode. If you want to go check out those other videos, you're more than welcome to. If you're new here, again, this is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. Here we talk about overcoming addiction and recovery and the mindfulness that comes with that mindset of choosing an outstanding life. I want to preface this by saying, this show is really designed for the people who, I don't want to say who haven't made the decision yet that that's the life they want. I'm not here to convince you that this is something you should do or that you have to do. I'm just sharing that from a point of support, after you've made the decision to give up these things, to not have alcohol be a part of your life, to not let addiction hold you captive, after you've let go of those ideas and you've already made the decision, this show is almost like a companion to that. It's a tool in your toolkit. It's not here to help convince you or to... I just recall back when I was struggling, the last thing I wanted was for someone to tell me to do anything. I wasn't open or willing to those kinds of conversations. And it was really hard. And people would try and share with me, and I wasn't open to the concepts or ideas. And so it wasn't until I was open, willing, and ready that I was willing to let the message come through. And that's kind of where we're jumping in here, where we, earlier in the previous video I just showed, was talking about the exact, what those 12 steps are in their entirety. But what I do want to jump into is what those meant to me. If that makes any sense. Okay, so I want to jump in here. So let's move on to, if you're new here, have you ever been afraid of taking the first step? I shared earlier about what kept me in limbo for so long was this idea of who would I be after I had chosen to give up my addiction, after I had made the decision that that's what I wanted. In a previous episode, I shared that it was an email that I had read. It was passively, it was at work. It was one of those Wellness Wednesdays or Friday office emails, the ones that go to the whole company. And it was an email. It was entitled this topic. It was like paragraph 7 of 12. Across the menu item in the lunchroom was number 4. Funny joke of the day was number 5. And then paragraph 7, somewhere buried deep, was just a short little blurb. It was like 3 sentences where it talked about when a habit becomes a problem. And that message resonated with me to the point that I was like, holy crap, this was insane. Like, if a habit can become a problem and it was hidden inside of an email, it wasn't hidden in an email, it was plainly written in there, but it wasn't directed to me, but it was safely in an email where it was sent to the whole company. And that's when I was like, okay, if a habit can become a problem, then what if the deepest secret's creeping in here, where it's like, what if I have a problem? You know, what if this habit has become an issue? And I was so afraid, like I was so scared. And I never really put it into context before. And I actually want to show you something. This one here is going to sound silly. Okay, so here we have a picture. This one is Denzel Washington, and this is from a movie. I don't know if you've seen this movie before. If you have, just let me know if you've seen it in the comments. It's the movie called Flight. And in the movie called Flight, Denzel, if you've never seen it before, I'll just give you the TLDR. He's a pilot and he flies a plane, and there's like an emergency in the air, and he takes I'm not spoiling the movie, like this is in the trailer. So he takes the plane and he flies it upside down miraculously, and there's this huge amazing event. As it comes through in the movie, it turns out he's struggling with addiction, and he's coming to terms with his alcoholism and his drug habit. This is all based on a true story. And before, like, I want to preface this by saying I was sitting at work and I had read the email about the previous thing maybe a few weeks earlier, and we actually got these like a random celebration, like just to celebrate you for being an awesome person. They were handing out free movie tickets at work. Like, you get a movie ticket, you get a movie ticket, and you get a movie ticket. And there was a bunch of my friends that all ended up getting movie tickets, and we were all stoked. And so we all decided, you know what, we'll all go see a movie together. And the movie we all decided to go see was this movie. Oh, okay, so it's not over here. Hold on, I always get this mixed. It's over here. We all decided to go see the movie Flight. And I'm sitting there with like 20 or 30 of my closest friends from work, and we're watching this, and it's a good 2.5 hours long. And there was a part in the movie where Denzel, he actually he's watching. Okay, I'm gonna but to do a little bit of a spoiler here. So Denzel, he attends a meeting, like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And keep in mind, this is me before I've taken any decisions, before I've chosen to embrace my recovery path. This is me while I'm still currently on my struggle, trying to keep it all together, white knuckling it through the journey of life, the struggle. And I'm totally afraid going into this movie. Unbeknownst to this, I'm going into this movie thinking that I'm the only one that's on the struggle, and that no one knows this pain and suffering, and that there's no one can possibly understand anything. That the only person who knows is me, and that I'm the one holding on to it, bundling it all up, and it's just stuffing all my emotion. And then here I am watching this movie with all my friends, and then Denzel is observing this meeting, this AA meeting. And up until this point, I had never actually seen a meeting. I'd never watched a movie where it's been inside an AA meeting. But I know you're gonna laugh at me, but I know that it was a movie, and I know there's part of it that was probably fictitious, and they probably made it way more fun than it needed to. But there's a scene in the movie where Denzel is watching this AA meeting, and when he's watching it, there's people laughing, and there's people having fun, and they're enjoying themselves, and they're laughing about the things that they thought were impossible, and that there's no way that other people would understand. And I thought, Denzel went to an AA meeting. And if he can go to a meeting, then so can I. And it was in that moment that I decided then that I was going to do something. I didn't know what I was going to do, but if Denzel can do it, so can I. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the movie, but this clip is from one of almost the end scene, so I'm not going to explain it beyond that, but it sounds crazy, but I found some sense of semblance from watching this. Not just being there with all my friends, not just seeing the email, it was a conglomeration of all those things that got me to that step where I was ready to make a decision. And it wasn't one event, it was this series of events. And it was hitting that rock bottom and then experiencing these events that created that opportunity for me to be ready. At any point in time, I could have taken the first step, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't open or willing. People had tried to talk to me before about this problem that I was having, and I wasn't letting them in. And, you know, I'll chat about that in just a minute here, but before I go on any further, I actually want to check out if anyone's here. Hold on, let's take over. Oh, hey, Kathleen is here. Hey, Kathleen, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. That's awesome. I know everybody's all over at the training, so they're probably all out for dinner at the LSP community. The ones who are there, so jealous I'm not. But thank you for stopping by, Kathleen. I really appreciate that. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, so that was my story about being ready and willing to take the first step. I never really thought I was going to be ready. No one ever really does. Okay, so if you're new here, my name is Jason and this is the Outstanding Life Show. Here we talk about recovery and overcoming addiction. If you would like to get reminders of what we're talking about, type show in the comments and we'll have a reminder sent out to you. We go live every weekend around 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This week I'm running a little bit late. I ran into some issues, but I did want to get this show out to you. Hold on, I want to get this up and this is where, okay, so now I'm going to jump in and start sharing about where I was at and what kind of a headspace I was in before I made the decision to give up these addictions, to let go, to allow myself to being, I want to say, that raw sense of connection. Because up until then, I was trying to put up little masks. Hey, kitty. I was putting up this sense of what I had believed to being like this face. And it really truly wasn't myself. I was this functioning alcoholic. I was this functioning addict. I was just skimming by and white knuckling it through, which isn't a true way to live life. And I was afraid of admitting that I cannot control my alcoholism and my addiction. And it's this scary idea that you never really think of as true until it starts manifesting itself. And it only manifests when you start erupting into these events. You know, when you stuff your feelings so much that the next time, hey kitty, that the next time something comes up, all the emotion just erupts out. And we talked about that earlier in a previous episode where if we stuff all our emotions and if we stuff all of our feelings, the next time one feeling comes by, everything just bursts out. And that's no way to live if all we're doing is stuffing, if all we're doing is canning our not truly expressing how we feel. Okay, so I was afraid of admitting that I cannot control my alcoholism and my addiction. It took me forever to believe in a higher power and that this higher power can give me strength. And one of the things I noticed here in the beginning of my recovery is it identifies here as saying higher power. And what some people can attribute that to is by saying, because not everyone has that same sense of belief. coming from a Native community, I can share that having something greater than myself and believing in that that's not the right way to say it. I didn't believe in a higher power when I entered the program. And that's what I struggled with for the longest time. I struggled in believing in something bigger than myself because my ego was so big that nothing could be bigger than that. That sounds crazy, I know, but just for a minute, last week we talked about normal people who look at the addiction world and they can't see the same thing we see. And so being someone in recovery who's in the heat of my addiction, I held my ego to the highest power. And when I was introduced to the concept of something being a higher power and that something can give me strength, it took me so long to break down that barrier and then to put on a pedestal something bigger than my ego. And that something is a higher power. You know, and if you're not familiar with the concept, if you're not familiar with a higher power, that's okay. In some cases, then, you know, some guys would show up to the group and they don't have any belief in a higher power. I can understand and I can empathize because I too was at that spot. I too was under that impression. And I found that higher power to being the group. At first, it was the group I would go to. The you know, who attended that meeting was going to be my higher power, even if it was only for that meeting, until I found it on my own. And after going to 4 or 5 meetings a day for 9 weeks, that's like hundreds of meetings. And so by the end of those hundreds of meetings, it was no longer that group that was my higher power. It became something bigger. It became what I perceive. In the Native community, we call it the Creator. And with the Creator, we have it, you know, Mother Earth and Father Sky. And the Creator is who helps give everything a spirit. And I didn't mean to get this into the spiritual side of things, but from the recovery path, having a spiritual tone has helped me huge. And I feel that's an essential part to my recovery. So I believe there's spirit in everything, in everyone. And that higher power is what can connect everything. Same thing as spirit. Spirit can connect everything. Okay, so before I move forward, I want to check out the comments real quick. And I want to see, yes, Kathleen is sharing. Yep, I'm sure they're all having a great time. I know. While they're having a great time, Kathleen, we're having a great time here. We're having fun. We're hanging out. We're being cool. We're talking 12 steps. I showed the video there of what the 12 steps are, and now we're going into a little bit more detail. But yes, I agree. They're having a good time, but then so are we. We're hanging out. We're doing cool. Who else is here? Oh, my friend Suzanne. Suzanne, you are awesome. Thank you, Suzanne, for stopping by. I really appreciate that. I know your message has been genuine and authentic, and I follow your journey, and I appreciate your words, and I know your words are coming through as intended. And I know it comes from a place of authenticity, and I just wanted to share that. You're on my gratitude list. So thank you, Susan, for showing up. It actually means a lot. Okay. And then Susan is sharing, yes, the 12 steps. And then we also have the higher power can be widely interpreted. The natural desire in life towards health, God, nature, divine, energy, intelligence, energy, creator. This is awesome. I'm loving this. This is actually really cool. Hold on. I'm actually going to go and see if I can go and take a look at. It is a wide door to walk through, you know, atheists to priests in a 12-step. That's actually really good. I wanted to go read the rest of the comments. So yes, thank you for sharing that. That actually means a lot. Okay. And then Kathleen is sharing, agreed. She's referring to the live streaming. They're all having fun, and we are happy being where we are. We are. And you have a smiley face. Yes. Okay. So we've talked about it taking me forever to find that higher power, and that it can give me strength. And so here we go. We move forward with support. I found my moral compass by examining my past errors. Now, by examining my past errors, what does that mean? That means first admitting that there was errors that I've made and the true nature as to what caused them. It's easy for me to want to say this, okay, I'll just make an example. You know, this person did me wrong. You know, person X. And if person X did me wrong, what is the true nature of that wrong? They did me wrong in one way, but is there any onus or responsibility for me to, you know, is it something that I did that caused them to be upset? And then in turn, they made a decision, you know, to cut me out of their life or to do me wrong. And so I might be upset that they're doing something, but did I do something to cause that? You know, is there some part of that? Is there a shred or an ounce of opportunity for me to own that moment, to identify my past errors? Because then, you know, up until that point, I wasn't ready to listen to that. I was only ever seeing their errors. I was only ever noticing what this other person was doing. I was never owning that I was the one causing these errors. I was never taking that opportunity to keep my side of the street clean. And so when I first entered the program, it was very difficult, one, to entertain that there was a higher power, two, that there was errors, and that, you know, by keeping a moral compass, because when you stop consuming alcohol and drugs, when you stop stuffing your emotions, and when you start being honest with yourself, with who you are, with where I'm at, with my current trajectory, when I'm start being honest with myself, when I remove all that cloud of judgment, pretty soon the rest of the emotions start flooding through. And then how do you manage that? It's very difficult. It was very difficult for me to manage that. And so having a moral compass is what helped keep me in check and help me, what is it? Chickadee check myself before I wreck myself. It was having a moral compass helped kept me aligned with what was true. You know, my true north is maybe different than someone else's true north. But beforehand, I wasn't open and willing to those ideas. And so that's where I identified there were errors I had made in the past. And what we're going to move on to next is, hold on, I made amends for my errors. And I continued to keep my side of the street clean. So previous, I was identifying that there was errors I made, and then I had to make amends. I say had, but there was a part earlier where I shared where doing so did not cause harm to others or to them. So there are some people who I may have harmed, but there's, you know, bridging that gap of amend might cause more harm than good. And in doing so, it's, you know, it's safe that you shouldn't go and make those amends. I shouldn't make an amend if it's going to cause more harm. And by the steps of making amends is, I want to show you something. I've got a prop, and it's actually really cool. It's a little tiny bag. And what's important is not the bag itself. It's actually what's in the bag. And this little bag contains a necklace. And this necklace has a little wooden cross. And okay, cool, it's a cross. But what's important isn't the cross itself, it's where it came from. When I was in recovery, one of the steps we had to do was to make a list of all the people we had harmed, and then we had to be prepared to make amends, but there was a spot where we had to share to another human being the true nature of our wrongs. And one of the things I had to do was to go up to a monastery. This is part of the program. I had to go up up to a monastery, hang out with monks and holy men, and I got to share. It's in like one of those confession booths kind of type of deal where you just open up, and it wasn't like, oh, here's the last thing I needed to share with you since the last time I had shared with you. Up until this point, I'd never actually shared or opened up to anybody. And this is the time. This is an example of when that took place. This is that milestone that reminds me. This is when I opened the floodgates. This is the first time I kept my side of the street clean. I shared everything that I had done and everything that I had believed I had done wrong, and it was intense because it's like a whole day adventure to do this, and I wanted something to commemorate that moment, not just the story, but to be able to identify, okay, I did this thing one time, and this one time, it's not the only time I've done it. Like you want to keep your side of the street clean. You want to keep going back to that moment. You want to keep going and sharing. You want to remember that you don't stuff your feelings. You don't do harm to others. You use your moral compass in every interaction, and you will have less instances where you stuff your emotions. You will do less harm to others. You will do less, I want to say, you'll hold less resentments. And in a previous episode, we did talk about resentments and the buildup of that anxiety and that anxiousness. And we talked about, good stress and bad stress and how resentments can build up. And here's where, by holding resentments, it does not keep my side of the street clean. And so I do my best to release those as consistently as possible in my day-to-day interaction. And I think in one of my first episodes, I talked about the tips and tricks I use. And one of them was the acronym, like hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So by ensuring I'm not hungry, I do all my meal prep on my first day off. Angry, I avoid anger by sharing my thoughts and my feelings continuously with others. By avoiding loneliness, I ensure I'm having a genuine, authentic connection with other people. And then by tired, I make sure I'm not tired by going to the gym, like I did earlier. And I work out. Sometimes I go to work out twice a day because I need it. And I want to burn that energy. And that allows me to keep moving forward. And I avoid being tired at the end of the day. No, I ensure that I'm tired. I said that backwards. I ensure that I'm tired because I work out. And by taking care of those things, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, I avoid building resentments, and I avoid building up that emotion, and I avoid feeling lonely, and I avoid having all this energy. Okay. And that all attributes to keeping my side of the street clean. Man, this one little cross, it means so much. It's so tiny, but it means so much to me. Okay. And by going through those exercises, I have learned to live life on life's terms with a new set of priorities. And here's the important part, without resentments. This without resentment part, I can't believe how important it's become. Before, it was so easy to build resentments. I would make up excuses, and this addicted alcoholic mind, this brain, would come up with all sorts of excuses to go out and drink, to go out and use, to go out, it would almost be anything. And I would find people who were like-minded, and I would try to build a community with them, and it didn't do any good. I didn't build any long-lasting connection. In fact, I lost more friends than I gained. Some of those friends that I made before I made this choice are not even here anymore. And that's hard. When you go to one funeral, when you go to two, or when one person can't handle it or their body can't handle it anymore, it's a shocking, it's horrific. And you never wish that on anyone else. And we get to that spot later on in the 12th step where we share, being willing and ready to help others who are in that point. And here we go. We jump into the next part. I decided to help others who suffer from alcoholism, who suffer from addiction. And that was one of the things I decided to do. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this opportunity to share. I'm going to take this opportunity to document my adventure. And I consider it an adventure. It hasn't been an easy adventure, but it's been fun. You know, I decided I was going to go, and I wanted to make a better example of who I could become. And I decided I was going to go and apply myself. And when I decided to do that, you know, I made the decision to go into recovery. I made the decision to push myself further in my career. I made the decision I later went to a Tony Robbins event, and I walked across fire, something I never thought was possible. I went ahead and became a homeowner. I was like, holy crap, this is insane. Or in the town I live in, they have these awards where and it's called a White Hat Award, and it's in the field of customer service. And if you can get nominated, it's huge, because just getting nominated by itself is something worthy to put on a resume. And if you can get nominated to win, you're up against thousands and thousands of other people. And when I decided to put myself on the journey of the 12 steps, I decided that I was going to go ahead and push myself to apply for this new career. I was going to push myself to go to this Tony Robbins event. You know, I didn't know at the time I was going to go to the event, but I made the decision I was going to go make a better life of myself. And later on, that included taking on this career, taking on this path. And I decided I was going to help out with this employee association at work. And I was like, man, you know what? I bet I could do this. I bet I could try, and I bet it can work out. And while I was in recovery, while I was in rehab, I got the email that I was nominated to go for this white hat. And I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. You know, this wicked life that I was living. Hold on, I've got this funny meme here. This is from Kill Bill, where this is this is from a scene at the end of the movie where, you know, Sophie Fatale is admitting that she has been allowed to live this wicked life. And, you know, up until this point, in my recovery, I believed that I was living this wicked life. And if it was for one reason. And here is where, if it was only for one reason with the Denzel part, maybe it was to get this message. Maybe it was to be able to share it. Maybe it was allowing to move myself forward. And here is where I wasn't sure if that was the right decision. And, you know, you look for signs, you look for symbols, right? Like, you look for, if you're on the right path, you don't know if you're doing good. And when I got that email that, hey, I was nominated for this white hat, I was like, holy cow, this is amazing. The day I got out of rehab was the day I went for the white hat interview. And, you know, you look for a sign and a symbol, and I was like, holy crap, this symbol is, you know, a sign from my higher power, this higher power that I now believe in, this higher power where I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. And it happens to be on the same day I get out of rehab. You know, the monks, I don't think they would ever know, and I've never been back to tell them this, but, you know, the monks would be super proud of me if I told them I got nominated for this white hat. And I went to the interview, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, you know, in recovery, we kind of have to share, like, I don't know how to say this, but, you know, in a meeting, I'll have to introduce myself when I talk. And I'll be like, if it's my turn to talk, I'll say, hi, everybody, my name is Jason, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm an addict. And then they respond, and they say, hi, Jason. And then I'm allowed to continue. And then you have to recognize yourself before you can share. And so for 9 straight weeks, I had identified myself as Jason, the alcoholic, and the addict. And up until that point, I hadn't really had an adult conversation. And so the first time I had an adult conversation was at this interview for the White Hat Award. And so I show up to the interview, and I see like 20 or 30 of my friends from work who were also nominated for the same award. And this is the first time I had seen my friends in 9 straight weeks. I'm flooded with emotion. I'm fighting back tears. And this is the first time I've been able to identify as like Jason. You know, at that time, they didn't know any of anything that I just been through. I mean, now they know. Now I've been open and transparent. I've shared with everybody. I mean, I'm making a show about it. But at the time, they didn't know what was going on. They just thought I was on vacation for like 9 weeks. Little did they know what happened. And I didn't really know what to share with the interviewers. I didn't know what to make of it. And I didn't know how I was going to answer any of the questions. But I knew how I wanted it to feel. I knew I wanted people to have fun. I wanted it to be engaging. I wanted it to be just like this show, you know, a fun adventure where we can just sit and chat and talk. And it's going to be very casual. And I ended up just having the interview, and I never thought much about it. And then a few weeks go by. I get the job, you know, that I applied for. I put my name in for the employee association. I got that, and I was like, holy crap. You know, when I first reached out for help, I reached out to the employee association to tell them I think a habit has become a problem. Just like the email I shared earlier, I think a habit has become a problem. That's the first people that I admitted to, aside from myself in the movie theater. And the employee association really stretched themselves and helped me in ways that I can't imagine. And it's to this day that I'm super thankful for that. And every day, I pour myself back into that employee association. And, you know, there's people that I've been able to help. And those people, I don't share with them like what I just shared with you. I just make sure that they have the resources available. I encourage them to make the right decisions. And I support any action that they take. And as much as, you know, I've seen some people take that opportunity and turn their life around. Just like people were patient with me, I've been able to have that opportunity for others. And for me, that's been hugely rewarding, being able to give back. You know, it's like step 12, right? Like being able to give back. And so that's the work component where I've been able to apply myself to get that position. I was able to apply myself to get that voted in position. I went to the Tony Robbins thing. I walked across fire. That was insane with my best friend, Clint. If you're watching this, I love you. It's amazing. And I ended up going and I got the email for the employee association or for the White Hat Award. I went to the interview. I saw my friends. I completed rehab. I went back to work. And then a few weeks later, we went to the ceremony and I found out that not only, here's the other prop. Check it out. I actually have a white hat. The reason why I have a hat is because I won. I won the White Hat Award. This was insane. You know, I never really thought that I could ever, you know, it was the first time that you look for signs and you look for symbols and you look for that feeling that you're on the right decision. This was that sign for me. You know, this feeling of picking up this cross was the first symbol for me that, you know, I was making the right decision. But now here I was being rewarded for making the right decisions. And I couldn't believe it. And I decided then that this is going to be the life I'm going to live. This is the life I'm going to share with others. This is the only life that I'm going to live from now on in. And if everybody around me is going to love me for me, I want it to be transparent and honest and true. And there's going to be no more masks. There's going to be no more facade. There's going to be no more resentments. And the only thing that's going to be here is raw, and it's going to be true. And just like the interview, I'm going to make it fun. It's going to be an adventure. Just like the show. I don't know, guys. Okay, I've been ignoring the comments for a while. So forgive me. Let's go check out. If you're new here, this is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. We talk about recovery and addiction. Today we're talking about the 12 steps. If you're new here and you like what we talk about, feel free to type show in the comments and we will have a reminder sent out to you. We go live every weekend around 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going live a little bit later this week, but it is important. You are a priority. You mean a lot to me. I'm trying out some new things this week with a couple of prompts, with a couple of new triggers with the new setup. But I want to check out the comments and see who's here. And then Amanda. No way, Amanda's here. Hey, Amanda, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. That's actually really important that you're here. I appreciate it. Okay. And then, no way, Heather McDonald, wow. All the way from the east side of Canada, Heather. Man, at the Tony Robbins event. That's where the magic happened. That's where walking across fire, meeting all the big names. Greg Sugarman, Carolyn Rim, Heather McDonald, Yali Rashi. Man, I can't believe that was like 3 years ago. 4 years ago? I can't imagine. And Petra's here. Do you like my hat, Petra? Thanks. I keep it in my set and I have it in the back. I use it for my like button, right below my like button. I've had it there the whole time, but I'd never really talked about the prop, and I wanted to share a little bit about how I got this hat. But yeah, thanks, Petra. I really appreciate that you like the hat. Thanks for stopping by. It must be like 3 in the morning or 7 in the morning for you. And then, yes, that's right. Hey, Petra. Kathleen is commenting for Petra. She's up already. Petra, that means a lot that you're here. Thank you. Like, you've been a huge inspiration to me, Petra. I didn't believe I could go and start a show, and I saw how your show was set up in like a 4x4 or 6x4 format, and I thought, if Petra can do it, I can do it. Kind of like how with Denzel, right? And going to the meeting, if Denzel can do it, I can do, oh my God, if Denzel can do it, I can do it. And so if Petra can set up a show in a 4x6 spot, I can make this look good in my little 4x6 spot. It's not really that big, but it looks really nice. I hope it does. Okay, and Kathleen says, yeah, I love how you guys are having a conversation in the comments. And then Petra's ignoring us. Well, I'm not trying to ignore you, Petra. I couldn't ignore you. Yes, and Amanda's sharing that she's watching and working. Well, thanks for stopping by. I know it's really important what you do. And thank you so much for all your hard work and everything you put into. It means a lot. Again, thank you so much. Okay, so what have we talked about? We have talked about quite a few things in this show. I never really thought that this would go this long. I really meant this to being like a short one, but we started talking, and one thing we haven't shared so far is the safety moment. The safety moment, we always have one every show. This one's talking about it's okay to not know all the answers. We talk about how we get to this spot, how I came this far, and I wanted to share that in full transparency. The challenge I was making, the mountain I was making this out of the molehill, the fear that I was white knuckling it through, leading up to the decision, the social angst I was putting myself through, up until the point of like, hey, you know what? There is life past this decision. You know, there is a, you know, it doesn't have to be what we have here, living a wicked life like I have in Kill Bill. This screenshot, Sophie Fatale is in the trunk of a car, and then she's looking up at Gwyneth Paltrow, and then it's her saying, I'm letting you live this wicked life. And I believe that I am, because I'm living this life. And for the first time in this scene, Denzel is saying, for the first time in my life, even though he's in prison, he feels free because he's living that honest life. And that's what I feel right now. I'm living this honest life, although I have a white hat. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then I'm just finishing up here with, let me move forward. This is actually, I want to bring this up. This is a guy, and he's a singer, and his name is Macklemore. And he made an album with Ryan Lewis. They're really good buddies. He's made a lot of solid content, and it really connected with me after I had made my decision to move forward in this recovery space, where here, this is a message that helped me a lot. In one of his lyrics, in one of his songs, he says, I say I found something greater than myself, and I started accepting it. And it was like in a jingle, it was a rhyme, it was a lyric in a song, and just hearing it being, I also want to say it's socialized out there, made it easier because it's in a song, it's something else. And then here's another lyric where he shares, you know, I met my potential a long time ago. and I'm not going to stop until I resemble him. And then that idea or that lyric planted a thought in my head of, maybe I've got something more out there for me to achieve. Maybe I've got something bigger in mind. Maybe that means I'm here to do more, something more than just struggle. And so I've applied myself as best I can. I've got my fancy white hat. I'm super proud. I want to say humble. Most humble people don't say they're humble. I try and live a humble life. I try and live a life that's outstanding. I wanted to share this with you guys. I've shared a lot now that I think about it, probably more than I had anticipated, but I wanted to say thank you everyone for stopping by, for watching. This has gone a lot longer than I thought it was, but I want to check out the comments real quick. Petra is sharing, boom, that's the spirit. You rock in every room, you own it. Thanks, Petra. I'm tipping my hat to Petra. Thanks, Petra. That means a lot. Okay, I am actually pretty hungry. In full honesty, in all transparency, I need to go get some food. I've done my meal prep already. I'm going to go down and get some stew. It's delicious. I can't wait to dig into it. It's getting pretty late here. It's about 10 o'clock and I'm past my meal time. I'm getting ready to have an amazing, outstanding life. I want to have one last message to you guys. It means a lot that you're here, and I can't say enough good things about it. But thank you for stopping by. Thank you for jumping in the comments. Thank you for sharing. If you want to know more about what we're doing, type show in the comments. We'll have a reminder sent out to you. If you're new here, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show, where we talk about recovery and overcoming addiction. If you want to know more, if you want to send a message, that's awesome. Take care. Bye.